you don't have to wash your hands.
Okay.
But let's say, I don't know exactly how it works with pickles, but let's say pickles, everyone eats with the hand. Let's say that's how it is. Let's say, okay? Now you have to wash your hands, even if you're gonna eat it with a fork. Because we go according to the way it's usually eaten.
Even if you use fork. Okay, fine.
Correct. That's why I want to give the apple as a clear example. Apple, I'm too lazy to wash my hands. Apple is wet. Okay, I'll stick a fork into it. Not eating like that. I don't want to wash my hands. I'm sitting there fine. I don't mind eating with a fork. It's a little more exciting. Let's say. Okay, so now you don't have to wash your hands. You do. Because we go according to how it's usually done. The same is also. You're having a bowl of soup. You have to wash your hands? No, because you use the spoon. What if it happens when no one is looking? Yeah, you want to grab something from the soup, right? Yeah, you're too lazy. No one's looking and grab the. I'm not saying you should do that. I'm saying, let's say, yeah. So you have to wash your hands before you stick your hand inside?
No.
Because we go according to how it's usually done. If this is how you always eat the soup is, you stick your hands in and you take a part, let's say, whatever, we're not discussing, but let's say, obviously, we don't eat that way, but let's say, so does it that way, then they do have to wash their hands. So we go according to what's the norm. That's how it works.
Right.
Got it? Now, we said you have to wash your hands when it's wet. Do you know for which things? Wet from what?
Oh.
Let's say I have I cut up fruit salad, okay, and it's wet from the juice from the fruit.
Oh.
I cut up watermelon. I made a fruit salad. I cut up watermelon with pineapple and whatever, and it's all mixed together. And I'm eating with my hands, and it's wet. Why? How is it wet? From the juice. So you have to wash your hands.
I don't know. It's not just water.
So no, so it's only for 6 types of liquids. 6. 5 is more practical. And then is water, wine, olive oil, milk, honey. Then this dew like in the mornings.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's dew on the ground. So it's only those liquids. Anything else? Eggs, fruit juice, no.
Wait, honey, wine.
Water, wine, oil, milk, honey.
Milk.
Milk, yes. Only these liquids are considered liquids. What about, yeah, got it?
Like if I was gonna eat like apple and honey, like as a snack, would you have to wash your hands for that?
Correct. So if you're gonna stick your finger into the honey, then you have to you would have to wash your hands. Now, what about if you have a mixture of fruit juice together with these liquids that I mentioned? So you have fruit juice mixed with water, with mixed fruit juice mixed with wine, or eggs mixed with wine. You know what? It's a mixture. So what do you go by? Would you be able to guess?
I think like if there's
You go by.
if you buy these things, like if it's in there, you should still wash it.
We go by the majority.
Oh.
Majority rules.
Right.
Whatever's the majority, that's what we go by. Now, let's say you wash your hands because you want to eat an apple, it's wet, you don't want to dry it or whatever, a pickle, you wash your hands, and you eat the pickle. But as soon as you're finishing, oh, I want to wash, I want to have bread. You have to wash again. You just washed.
Yeah, it's a bracha.
Okay, it's not because it didn't say the bracha. Because if you washed, you washed. You have to wash again because this washing is possible that it doesn't count. Because there's an argument if you have to wash for wet foods. That's why we wash without a bracha, because it's questionable. So according to the opinion that says you don't have to wash for wet foods, this that you wash for wet foods is considered like you didn't wash for the correct intention. Because if you wash for something that there's no mitzvah, then the washing is not considered a washing.
Yeah.
So it's possible that the washing that you did doesn't really count as a washing because it could be you didn't have to wash. So then there was no mitzvah involved.
Wait,
So-
how do you wash your hands?
Let me finish, right? Let me finish this, right? So it could be the washing was not considered a washing. And that is why you have to wash again for bread, but you don't say a bracha. Because it's possible that you already washed. You can't say a bracha for nothing. It's possible that you're not doing any mitzvah because you already washed your hands. So it's possible, in other words, the washing that you did for the wet foods may or may not be considered a washing. Because not everyone agrees that not everyone holds that you have to wash for wet foods. So it's possible that it's considered a washing. It's possible it's not considered a washing. So you have to wash again for bread because you're not sure. Could you have to wash again? If you're not sure, you don't say a bracha. You get it? It's yeah. So you have to wash again without a bracha. See, it's not about the people think it gets stuck with the bracha. They think if you don't do a bracha, the mitzvah is not done. The mitzvah is done. Mitzvah is the mitzvah.
Yeah.
You're supposed to say a bracha when you do a mitzvah. Now it's possible that you did now. If you didn't, okay. If you did not say the bracha, so you did the mitzvah, maybe you did it without the bracha, but the mitzvah is still done. So yes, you're supposed to do a mitzvah with the bracha, but if you did and you didn't say the bracha, the mitzvah is still done. Then once the mitzvah is done, you can't say the bracha. Sometimes you could, depending on what the mitzvah is. If the mitzvah is still continuation of the mitzvah, but generally speaking, once you did the mitzvah already, the bracha is gone. But the mitzvah is done. So in this case, when you wash your hands for wet foods, if let's say you did a mitzvah and you washed your hands and it's a proper washing, you wouldn't have to wash again. But it could be it's not a proper washing. So you wash them again. But the bracha, it's not about the bracha. Because once the mitzvah is done, we don't tell you, and you didn't do a bracha, we don't say, okay, we're going to do the mitzvah again because you didn't do a bracha. The mitzvah is done. And if the mitzvah is done, you can't necessarily say a bracha anymore. I'm saying necessarily because there are situations where it depends on what the mitzvah is, that the mitzvah is still extending. For example, when we sit in the sukkah, they say a bracha when you eat for certain foods, right? What if you got to say Leisha Sukkah for the sukkah? So even if you remember at the end of the meal and you did not leave yet the sukkah, you're still sitting there, but you finished eating, you still say Leisha Sukkah because the mitzvah is still continuing. So there can be situations where you could still say the bracha because the mitzvah is still continuing. But generally speaking, once you do the mitzvah, it's over. You can't say a bracha later. The mitzvah, the bracha has to connect to the mitzvah. Now, in general, when you wash your hands, and this is both by actually, this is specifically when it comes to bread. It's possible by wet foods, but definitely by bread, you have to dry your hands. So you can't just wash your hands and say Al Tasudayim, and the hands are wet. The hands must be dried. Okay, so this is pretty much the halachas for wet foods. Sometimes the food is not so wet, it's a drop wet. So the question is, what is considered wet? Wet means that it's wet enough to make something else wet. Meaning if it's so wet that when you touch it, it makes your hands wet, then now your hands can make something else wet, that is considered wet. Do you have any questions?
Like, how do you wash your hands? Do it like,
How do you wash your hands?
yeah, is it?
You mean for bread? Generally,
Wet food.
the same like for bread. It's the exact same way.
Exactly.
It's not as strict, maybe you don't have to use a towel, people are more careful, but
It's that anything has to
it's
touch
pretty much,
no,
it should be, you have to take off your ring, you said?
Yeah. Or is it not as deep, like?
It's not, well, let me ask you a question, do you have to take off the ring when you wash your hands for bread?
Yeah.
Yes is correct, but to be more accurate, the reason why you take off the ring is because usually the ring is tight. If let's say your ring is loose,
Yeah.
then you wouldn't have to take off your ring.
Okay.
So it's tight, the water doesn't get to it, so you have to take it off. Now, when it comes to washing for wet foods, that would be the same thing. The chatchila, that would be the proper thing.
Right.
It would be proper if one didn't. Now, the reason why in general you take off your ring is because sometimes you take it off. Now I'm going a little more. Let's say you would never take off your ring.
Yeah.
Let's say you never take off your ring.
Okay.
Let's say, which is not the case, because you take it off sometimes. Like
Like-
you take challah, let's
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
Let's say you never, let's say. Then when you wash your hands, you wouldn't have to take off your ring. Because the ring, you want it there. Why is it an issue if something is blocking the water? Because it's something that doesn't belong there. You're particular about that item that's there. You don't want it there. But if, let's say, you want your ring all the time, then this type of water that's interrupting between the water and your body is not an issue because you're okay. It's like subordinate. It's nullified to your hand because you want it to be there. So the reason why, in general, why you took off the ring is because there are times that you didn't take it off. Because there are times that you take it off, so therefore that means it's something that does bother you. You don't want it there at certain times. So therefore this creates a chatzitza, an interruption between your body and the water. According to that reason, you would also have to take off your ring, even when you wash your hands, even when eating wet foods. The chatchila, that would be the proper thing. Maybe it's not as strict because there are opinions that say you don't have to wash your hands in general. But if you ask them what's the proper thing, the chatchila, in other words, to start with, the ring should be taken off, especially if it's tight. Now, if it's not so tight, okay, so it's loose, the water's getting in. But the chatchila should be taken off. Okay? You have a question? We were finishing up about washing hands for wet foods. That's what we did till now. So I think we pretty much finished these halachos, unless there's any questions about washing hands or bread or for wet foods. Okay. So we're going to speak about Kiddush. We spoke about Kiddush, we spoke about Havdalah, we're going to speak a little more about it. And then is, let's say you're sitting by Kiddush, standing by Kiddush, and Kiddush, and you have some of the wine, and then you're having cake and soda. Do you say a brachas on all the foods that you're eating now?
On Mazonos you do.
On the Zaynus you do, and what else? You say a bracha on everything, right? Because it's you're not washing, you're having Zaynus. And Zaynus, you may have some salads, whatever they serve over there, right? So all those foods require a bracha, correct?
Salads also?
Let's say having salads. You're not washing. You eat Kiddush, and then you have dessert, cake, cookies, some salads, some fish, there's soda. So you say a bracha on all the foods that they serve there? No?
Wait, not that I.
Why?
I just heard you only say lasagna.
Really?
Wait,
Mhm.
if you wash it,
If you haven't.
no.
You're not washing. If you're washing, you just, that's it. You're not washing. You're having some cake, some salads, some, fish, whatever, you have to say a bracha on all the foods, right? You do,
Oh my goodness.
sure.
Oy. Wow.
Only when you wash. When you wash on Leitzi, that covers all the brachas. Yeah, but there is one exception. The exception is, okay, it's gonna bring it up. I wasn't even referring, I was gonna I brought this up to come to what I'm gonna speak now, but I didn't realize, so it's good I mentioned this. Okay? Hashem, you thought the Zionist includes all foods, like I might see.
No, I don't know. I was just always told that everything, for some reason you say in lasagnas, but like everything else isn't included.
No, there's no such a thing.
Now that I'm saying it, it does
Could
not
be at
make any sense.
could be at some point when you were starting off was too much to say so many brachas, maybe someone told you the same the Zionist, to start. There's no such a thing. It doesn't, the opinion doesn't even exist. It's not like there's a machlokes and it doesn't exist. Now, okay, very good. Now there is an exception. The exception is if you're having soda, if you're having water. If you had a guffin, if you drank from the wine, now when you drink from the kiddush, either you say you own a guffin, or you yaitze with one that says kiddush, which we discussed already. But whatever the case is, whether you said a guffin on your own, or you heard your yaitze with the one that's saying a guffin, and you had some wine, it's like you said a guffin, because if you hear a guffin and you yaitze with someone, it's like you said a guffin yourself. The halach is that when you said, just like hamaitzi covers all foods, besides dessert, a guffin covers all beverages. All beverages, that is shahaka. It covers all the beverages. So if you're having a cup of soda and you had a guffin, don't say shahaka. If you're having some fish, that's just shahaka. It's not covered by a guffin. But if you're having soda or water, any drink that's shahaka, that's included with the bracha of Be'er Priya Guffin. Now, sometimes you come to a place and you did a kiddush, but on a bus, you already said kiddush, and he might be saying kiddush again for you. That can happen. That means you had that experience. Now, could he say a guffin again for you? If you already said a guffin, could he say kiddush for you? You've already said kiddush himself, his family. The answer is yes. He could say kiddush again for you, because you have an obligation just like him, and therefore there's a rule that all Jews are responsible for each other, and therefore, being that you have an obligation, it's like he has an obligation, and he's able to say Kiddush, and it's not considered saying Hashem's name in vain, that he's saying it for you. However, there's an exception, and that is if, let's say, it's a day Kiddush. You're coming during the day. And the day Kiddush is only a guffin. If he's in the middle of a meal, actually I'm thinking now, the night Kiddush, if he's saying it again, but he's drinking water, and I'm saying a question came to my mind, how it works by the night Kiddush. I'll tell you my question is, because the night Kiddush, he could say again for you, but what about a guffin? You already said a guffin. Could he say again? I'm pretty sure he could say the whole thing with a guffin for you, but it's part of the Kiddush. But if it's a day Kiddush, and all it is a guffin, it could be that he cannot do it for you, because if he's in the middle of a meal and he's drinking wine, he has no obligation to say a guffin. So he's saying a guffin just for you. So I have to look it up. It could be. I just realized now that I think that is a problem. I believe that the night is not a problem. And I'm going to look into it. Now, Havdalah. Now, Havdalah is different. Havdalah, if the man already said Kiddush, if the man already said Havdalah, he cannot say it for you. Because there are different opinions if women are obligated to say Havdalah, to hear Havdalah. Some opinions say women don't have to hear Havdalah. So if you don't have an obligation, and the man already heard Havdalah or said Havdalah, he can't say Havdalah for you. Because could you say Hashem's name in vain? The only reason why he could say it for you because you have an obligation. But it could be you don't have an obligation, so the man cannot say Havdalah for women if the man already heard Havdalah. Now, women can say Havdalah themselves, even though it could be they're not obligated, because you're still doing the mitzvah. Like any other mitzvah you do, even though you're not obligated, you could still do that mitzvah and say the bracha. Because when you're saying the bracha, Shekadisham and Sivan, you're saying you sanctified us with your commandments, and you commanded us. Now the question is, but you weren't commanded. Like, for example, to eat in the sukkah. You have an obligation to eat in the sukkah, and you're saying the bracha, you have sanctified us with this, you have commanded us, but you weren't commanded. Because when you're saying that Sivan, you have commanded us, you're referring to the Klal Yisrael, referring to the Jewish nation. Sivan knew he commanded us, he commanded the Jewish nation to do the mitzvahs. That's how you can say the bracha. And so for sure, Havdalah, you're doing a mitzvah, you could say Havdalah yourself, but you can't have a man say for you if you already did Havdalah. Now, there's something about women not drinking from Havdalah, but that doesn't apply if you're doing Havdalah yourself. You don't drink from Havdalah. But if you're doing Havdalah yourself, there's no problem for a woman to drink Havdalah. You want to ask something? You had a question? Okay. Now, talking about Havdalah, you're not allowed to drink before Havdalah. You're not allowed to eat or drink before Kiddush. Even water, you're not allowed to drink before Kiddush, in water. However, before Havdalah, you are allowed to drink water. But the meaning Chabad is that we don't even drink water before Havdalah. That's meaning Chabad. According to Halacha, look at Shulchan, that's the way outside of Chabad, they assume they will drink water before Havdalah because you're allowed. It's meaning Chabad that we don't even drink water before Havdalah. Now, if someone has a condition, they're not well, and have to drink, of course, they should drink. But generally, Hatchila, the meaning is we don't drink water before Havdalah. Yeah.
My friends in church service, they tend to if they wash before the sun goes out, before the convention, they'll keep eating and drinking before Havdalah. Is that
So someone asked me that last time, I believe last time, someone asked me about that, because I remember looking it up afterwards over here. So the way it works is like this. There is an opinion that there's a leaned opinion that says that you can even begin a meal after the sun sets. And even not only begin a meal, the opinion says you can even eat and drink after the sun sets until it becomes a short night. So during the twilight between the sunset and it becomes definitely night, there's an opinion that says you're allowed to eat and drink. And the Alter Rebbe says those who do it, you don't have to, they have what to rely on. There is an opinion, but the main opinion is no. The main opinion is, the Alter Rebbe passes, could be they go according to that opinion. The Alter Rebbe passes says that no, that once the sun sets, you don't eat and drink. So if you wash beforehand, you could continue. But otherwise, if the sun set already, you can't. During Havdalah, there's Besamim and there's Neir and the fire. Now, there is different customs how it's done. You could be Yaitse with the one who's saying doing Havdalah. So the one who's saying Havdalah says, very minute Besamim, very minute Aish. As soon as he has you in mind, Um, the way I grew up is that we always said the bracha on our own. Father saying Havdalah, and all the kids would always do it on their own. Do I understand now? I'm hearing that's a lot of people they don't say the bracha, but they yaitzer with the one who's saying Havdalah. And so when it comes to psalmim, you're yaitzer that you usually say it on your own. You hear Havdalah, you hear psalmim, and you smell the psalmim because you yaitzer with him. Right. So that's what I'm finding out now. It's 100% fine. There is an opinion that says that it's better to do it on your own. It's not, you don't have to, for different reasons that it's better to do it on your own and not to be Yitzhak. But if you're being Yitzhak, assuming that one who does Havdalah has your mind, then it's 100% fine. Now, I'm just wondering if the one who says Havdalah actually has people in mind with something. That's what I'm not sure about. Because, okay, you try to look into it. What are people actually having everyone in mind with something? But anyways, assuming that you do something on your own, then you have to hold it in your right hand if you're writing. Sometimes people say a bracha on the psalmim, and they're not holding it. Someone puts it to their nose, and you say a bracha. You're supposed to, when you say a bracha on something, food, drink, psalmim, you're supposed to hold it in your hand, and if you're writing, in your right hand. By the fire, to be yaitz the fire, you have to be close to the fire, close enough that you can benefit from that. Potentially, you can benefit from the fire. It's a large place, and you're on the other side of the room, and you are listening. You're hearing the bracha b'rein mereish, and you want to be yaitz, you can say bracha yourself, whichever way. If you're not close enough to benefit from the fire, then you're not included. You're not exempt of the bracha because you have to be able to benefit from the fire, to be close enough. You have to be able, you don't have to benefit, you have to be close enough that you can benefit from the fire. That's the reason if you see the men that go like this. By the way, you don't do it with your hands. Women don't do it with their hands, just men.
Why not?
Why not? Because it's connected to the Chet Eitz Hadas. The Chet Eitz Hadas, which was called Machava, because before the Chet Eitz Hadas, the entire body was covered. When we have the fingernails, the entire body was covered with this.
Right.
Because the Eitz Hadas, Hashem took it away and just left something to commemorate, So because it's connected to Eitz Hadas, but the simple reason why they look at this is not because of that. The simple reason why we look over here is because you want to make sure there's enough light that you can tell the difference between your fingernail and the rest of the finger. That's the idea behind looking at it. If there's enough light, I'm close enough to the fire, the light is giving me enough light that I could see the difference between the fingernail and the skin. That's the reason, that's the technical reason why you look at it. But because it's also connected to the Eitz Hadas, so it says the women don't do it. They don't do it with their hands. They're still included with the bracha, or you say the bracha on your own, whichever way, whatever you do, because you're supposed to say a bracha on fire on Matzah Shabbos. You know why? You're supposed to say why do you say a bracha on fire on Matzah Shabbos?
Why do we?
Yeah, what's the idea of saying a bracha?
Isn't that when Adam struck?
Because
like
that's the
fire
time that ultimately fire was created on Motzei Shabbos. What happened was, ultimately was created on Friday. There was this special light that was shining throughout the entire Shabbos. Friday night did not become dark. The light that Hashem created stayed till after Motzei Shabbos. So Shabbos kept the light up. When it came Motzei Shabbos, it says it became pitch dark. There's a blackout. Imagine there's a blackout. No flashlights, no nothing. You can't see a thing. You can't even picture such a thing. So Hashem put an intuition to Adam Rishon, and he took stones and he scratched it together, and out came fire. So fire was created on Motzei Shabbos, and that's the reason why we say bracha on fire Motzei Shabbos, because that's the time that fire was created. That's why it's specifically on Motzei Shabbos, not Sunday morning. So, why am I saying not Sunday morning? Of course, you say Havdalah Shabbos. Why am I saying that? I'll explain. Huh?
Is it because like you can go until like Tuesday or something, right?
Correct, exactly. Because Psalm did not say Havdalah, very good. Psalm did not say Havdalah, Motzei Shabbos, you could say until Tuesday night.
You did use the fire.
Huh?
That, like I knew that you did use the fire. If you say
Right.
like Sunday
Very
morning,
good,
I didn't
because
do it.
but you do Havdalah without the fire and without the Psalmim. Also, Psalm is only Motzei Shabbos.
Why?
So if you're doing it Havdalah starting from Sunday, there's no fire anymore. Now, by the way, if you have one day you have young children that have to go to sleep early in the summertime and they can't stay up Havdalah, so if they're at the age of understanding about Shabbos and they have Kiddush Havdalah, now Havdalah is 9:30 at night. They can't. They need to go to sleep, right? So then what you could do is they could do Havdalah Sunday morning. Let them go to sleep on time. And Sunday morning they do Havdalah with a cup of grape juice. They can read that age that they are 6, 7, they're already at the age of chinuch, they understand about Shabbos. From about, let's say, 5, 6, 7, from that age, they should already be educated in Kiddush and Havdalah. So Sunday morning, before they eat breakfast, they make Havdalah. Now, sometimes there are people who are discussing now those who do say a bracha during Havdalah. We said that some are yait. So let's say you sing a bracha on Psamim, on air, you want to make a bracha. Sometimes people make a mistake and the Havdalah goes so fast that they Psamim, then fire, then the one who's doing Havdalah already is saying the bracha, Ma'al M'kesh L'chel, and so didn't yet say a bracha on his Psamim. So while the person saying Havdalah, he grabs the psalm and he says a bracha on psalm. But when he's doing that, he's not hearing Havdalah. Because he's supposed to hear Havdalah, hearing is like saying. So if hearing is like saying, and while you're saying Havdalah, you say, imagine you say Havdalah, I didn't say bracha on the psalm. And then you continue the bracha. You can't do that. You can't speak in the middle of bracha. So if you have to hear Havdalah, and while you're hearing Havdalah, you're like, oh, I didn't say bracha on the psalm. You say a bracha on the psalm, saying it quietly, not disturbing anyone, just saying very quietly, right? But you're hearing bracha of Havdalah, and you're talking in the middle of the bracha. Okay, so you're not talking nonsense. You're saying a bracha, very nice. But you are interrupting the middle of the bracha. You can't be Yetz Havdalah like that. So if someone, let's say you want to say a bracha on psalmim on your own on the fire, and you didn't say it, wait till after Havdalah, and then after you can say a bracha on the psalmim or the fire.
But then if you're waiting till afterwards, if they pass you during the Havdalah, you shouldn't smell it yet.
So if you're not saying a bracha, you're just smelling it, it's not a problem. I'm talking about that there are people, a lot of people who do say their own bracha. Some.
Right, I know. So I'm saying.
So in the middle of the Havdalah, they pass something and they're like, you're listening to Havdalah and saying something. Can't do that.
Right, but if you're gonna, so if you know you're gonna say the bracha after Havdalah,
On some,
on the
right?
sun, but during the Havdalah, somebody does pass with the sun, and
So,
but you don't have a chance to say the bracha because they're making Havdalah. Can you still smell it, like without?
so that's what I'm saying. It goes into the previous discussion. With some people who say their own bracha. If you don't say your own bracha anyways, when and you're just smelling it, it's not a problem. If you usually say your own bracha, then you're going to be interrupted when you're saying the bracha. Then you can't. So just to smell it while First they're saying Havdalah, it's okay. But to say the bracha and smell it, now you interrupt in the middle of a bracha. Right? Any questions? Okay.
All right, also, I had a question related to